guys about how I got hired at Disneyland and also about what it was that I was doing at Disneyland as far as my job goes. So let's go ahead and get started into that. So I applied online, and then from there I was invited to take an online assessment or something like that, and then after you pass that, then they invite you to schedule an appointment with the recruiter in Disneyland. So you go ahead and you do that, and then you go in for an interview, and then they let you know whether they're gonna hire you or not. I ended up getting hired, and I got this paper just stating, like, congratulations, you've been hired. You go in there, and then they ask you a few questions. They try to get to know you a little bit, see where they can place you, or if you fit in to whatever it is that they're looking for. You don't get to pick exactly where you're being placed. You just get randomly placed wherever they need you. I went in for attractions. I ended up getting hired for merchandising, which is basically retail, working in retail. So yeah, I went in. He asked me a few questions in regards to the attraction position, and they asked me about heights and if I was comfortable swimming. I told him that I was okay with heights, but I wasn't good with swimming. I didn't know how to swim. He get me for attractions, but he offered merchandising position, and I went ahead and I took it. After that, he gave me my paper, which is the one I showed you, the slip saying, congratulations, and then in that same slip it tells you, your position, what you're doing, which is merchandising for me, and then it lets you know whether you'd be placed in Disneyland, California's Adventures, or if you're placed in Downtown Disney. I was placed in Downtown Disney, and I was actually able to work at World of Disney here in California. After I got the congratulations paper, I then had to be scheduled for orientation, which was, I believe, a total of 3 days, if I remember correctly. And once you arrive there, they give you something like this, that says congratulations. And you go in, you do paperwork, then they give you a tour of Disneyland, a tour of California's, and then a tour of Downtown Disney. And then finally, on your last day of orientation, they give you your uniform for wherever it is that you were being placed. Now going back to them placing you wherever you want, you have no option of where you want to be if you want to be placed, or an option of picking where. They just kind of randomly place you them placing you wherever you want. You have no option of where you want to be if you want to be placed, or an option of picking where. They just kind of randomly place you wherever they need you. And so when I got hired for Downtown Disney, and I worked 3 stores. One of them was the big main store on Downtown Disney, which is World of Disney, and then I also was placed in Marceline's, which sells amazing treats, by the way. And then I also was placed for Pin Traders, which is a little hut across from the Lego store, and that's for pin trading and pin collectors. And then after that, I also was able to work for one marathon. Only there for about, I want to say, the holiday season. I want to say I got hired around October, I believe. Yeah, it was October, and then I got to stay there for about, I want to say I left in January. And the reason I left, well, there was a few reasons. I mean, besides, working for Disney and having those amazing perks, there were some downfalls for me. I love Disney. I would go back if I could. The downfall for me was that it was almost an hour ride from where I lived to where I was going to work, and not even because of the distance, but mostly because of the way my schedule was and the traffic going towards that area at that time. So at first I was working night shifts. I started working night shifts, and then as I was there longer, I was able to get better shifts, which were like afternoon to night shifts, but they weren't closing shifts. Or I ended up having once morning shift, which I really liked, but most of the time they were usually closing shifts. I didn't mind it. The only thing I did mind was that we were coming out so late that I was tired by the time we were out, and I was very sleepy. So that was the only thing I didn't like about it. Other than that, the management team that I had was freaking amazing. They don't compare to anywhere else where I've worked. the management team I had took full responsibility for their job descriptions. I have no complaints as far as management goes for the main store that I was working at, which is World of Disney. The management team was amazing and they were on top of everything. They were very helpful. The one thing I really liked about Disney was that they always made you, well, in my case, they made me feel very comfortable. They constantly asked me to go ahead and ask if I had questions, or they would ask me if I had any questions. They were on top of everything, so I really appreciate the management team there. My coworkers or team members or whatever you want to call them, they were amazing as well too. Disney by far is like nowhere I've ever worked at before. I really like it. And then also, aside from, you know, having an amazing team that you work with, you also get to interact with a lot of guests, as they would call them. And it's so much fun to go in there and, you know, try to make magic happen, you know. So yeah, I really enjoyed working there. A few reasons for which I left were, one, because they were very strict as far as piercings go, as far as tattoos go, makeup, your hair. I went in having it was sort of a honey blonde hair, like a little bit on the ashy side, and I had to dye my hair. They did not allow that. I went in for the interview and they kind of commented on it, and they told me to go ahead and go into my position and see what they told me. Right away they pointed it out and they told me that I had to dye my hair a natural color because blonde was not okay with them. That was one of the downfalls, you know, for me for Disney, as far as Disney rules go. But I mean, I get it, you know, they're trying to set a certain standard. Then the other thing was tattoos. You weren't allowed to have tattoos. They had to be completely covered with makeup. No band-aids, nothing like that. It had to be covered with makeup. The only thing that I didn't like about that was that with my uniform and where I had my tattoo, since it was a long sleeve, it would rub off. So it was really hard trying to reapply it constantly during my shift. Another thing was my piercings. Obviously I have my nose pierced and I have a few piercings on my ear that aren't allowed. I would just take my hair down, and if I really needed to, I would take them out. My nose piercing I would not take in at all because I would get called out on it and I would get in trouble. Attendance was it's highly recommended that you don't miss days. Like, you cannot miss any days, you cannot be late. They have a point system where if, you know, you exceed your point limit, you will get fired. So, you know, I remember once I was late by a minute, literally a minute. That was a minute that it took me to cross the street to get to where I had to be, and I was so devastated. But, you know, that's just the rule. Like, you can't be late, you have to be on time or early or on time, otherwise it's hard. This video is a little bit of a mess because it's been a while since I've been there, so I don't really remember everything in order, and as it is, I have like really bad memory. But the hiring process is not that bad. You just have to go in there being yourself, you know. If you have experience, you shouldn't be afraid. I think they're just looking for someone who has some experience, is friendly, somewhat meets their standards, and I think someone who's willing to make magic happen for others, you know, and keep that Disney magic going. Someone who's a little bit more on the energetic side and happy side and loves kids, just because you are dealing with a lot of kids. But not only that, you also have to deal with the parents. There's also a Disney lingo, which is like a Disney language. Not that it's, you know, anything crazy, but you do pick up a few words from here and there that are shortened for the cast members. Like, so like Downtown Disney would be DTD, like they will call it that. And you as a cast member have to remember these, because sometimes they'll tell you, oh, we're sending you to DTD, and you're just like, what is that, you know? So you start picking it up eventually. You can always ask management, you know, what does this mean, and then they'll explain it to you. What else? I mean, I wasn't there long enough to learn everything. There was a few things that I was interested in, such as, you know, the college program. I know they offer a college program. It's somewhere I would recommend for you to work if you are looking for something new and a little bit different. I used to come from retail, fashion retail. I worked at Forever 21 and I worked at Fashion Q, but there's just nothing that compares to Disney. The vibe is completely different. Sometimes I would feel like it was such a drag to go to work, but then I would get there and my whole vibe would change, you know, like it makes you feel like you want to work, you want to be there, you want to interact with your coworkers, you want to interact with the guests that are coming into the park, and your shifts go by so fast that it doesn't even feel like work. So I was lucky enough to have been blessed with the cast members that I was, and my management team was freaking amazing. So overall, my experience there was amazing, and I would definitely go back. I do want to reapply, but I think I want to reapply for human resources just because I have some experience in receptioning and stuff like that, paperwork, so I think I'd be a good fit for that. If not, I would also be interested in applying for a receptionist at maybe one of the hotels. So we'll see. I do hope I can go back, so we'll see what happens. If you guys have any questions, just go ahead and leave them below. I'll try my best to answer any of them. If you have any questions about my experience there, just let me know as well, and I'll answer them. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe, and go ahead and post those questions down below. I'll be answering them. Bye.